Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Silver Tears Tarot, and welcome to my new people. Today's the thank you reading. So, this is once a month. I've been doing this. It just sort of turned into this sort of cadence. Once a month, I've been coming out and doing a thank you reading where there's an extended attached to it. So, there's no need to scroll down and click on the Vimeo link to get to the extended. You just keep watching and it'll come on. So, this is going to be a deepish dive into the soulmate situation that is in front of you, that surrounds you, that is on top of you, that you've been experiencing. We're not going to ask necessarily specific questions, just going to kind of let it guide us today. So this is it's going to be a general reading, as always, for this collective, for the people that I'm saying thank you to. If this happens to be your first video, then I would just say it's not going to resonate with everybody, and it shouldn't. But if it resonates with you, maybe take a look at some of the other videos that have already come out before. There may be some good messages in there for you too, because they're all very much connected. So, going to go ahead and jump in with just kind of that energetic feel between the two of you. So this is not so much that energetic backdrop and that emotional backdrop that we usually get. It's really kind of what's between you. So we've got the Four of Pentacles. Oh, this is beautiful. That's exactly what, oh, but that's difficult. Okay, so there is a beautiful energy that starts out here, but it also kind of needs to be worked through. There is a tendency to want to it's like hiding. There's a feeling of hiding or hiding happiness. It's an interesting thing because it's like whenever a torch of happiness will open or will come on, there's a tendency on someone's side to put it down in the sand. So not only does it not show light, but it also isn't going to have any smoke rising from it. It's kind of trying to make it not seem like it's there. Definite sense of hiding emotions. And then with the Four of Pentacles in the reverse, though, this is what I think we're shooting for. It's just like these moments of clarity, of letting go, allowing the situation to kind of move with its own energy and no expectations. So there is a feeling of this is going to amount to kind of happiness, but alternating with something that's a lot more difficult than that happiness. And this is the energy that's between the two of you. So we see a lot of back and forth energy, but I mean, we see that in the everyday readings. It's just that this energy, it feels like there's progression in this with that Four of Pentacles in the reverse, that sense of letting go, that sense of that's powerful and it's mutual. It's not letting go of each other, it's letting go of expectations around the outcome. All right, so we have the Magician here in the reverse. This is letting go even though there's not necessarily a plan and not necessarily the knowledge that, hey, you're going to be able to figure this out. We also have the Hermit in reverse, so it's letting go without having really made a plan or without having gathered the wisdom. There's more wisdom to be gathered. That's not necessarily a bad thing, and it's not necessarily a bad thing not having either a plan or knowing if you can do it. This is actually letting go. That is actually saying, I release this. And it's very powerful. That's a very, very powerful thing that we all know. We all have heard stories about being able to release something. You hear how do you get pregnant? Well, you stop trying. You know, that's what you're constantly going to be hearing stories about. And that you see it work out that way a lot. This is another one of those situations where it's a matter of letting go. It's a matter of letting go. So we have the Fool, letting go and yet allowing yourself to move forward. So there's this fear that seems to be driving this need to hide. This is about confronting, and not just confronting it, but like gloriously overcoming this fear, despite the fact that we've got the Temperance card in the reverse. The Temperance card is it's like you have to work hard for this. It ends up being over time. It is a hard won balance. Um, that balance has not yet been established. But again, with the situation that you're looking at here, with kind of the feeling of the Fool was encapsulated in these three cards already before it even came out. There is a sense of just letting go and not having a plan and letting something happen, not having everything all figured out. So that's the energy of this union right now. And it's interesting because even for those where it feels like nothing is happening, there's this feeling, this lightness in the background that wants to come out, and it begets a little bit of happiness. But it's these moments of clarity, really. You can go ahead and take it as progress, even though it seems like it's very fleeting. It's not bad. It's actually really, really good. We do have the Page of Swords in the reverse, though, and this is the fear that threatens that Fool energy. The Fool energy is willing to try something completely and totally new. Completely and totally new. You see a mermaid coming out of the water and developing, legs, and you see it's just kind of got this sense of getting into something completely new and letting go of the old at great risk. But this is the fear. The Page of Swords is that fear around doing that. Let's see what else comes out for this, because this is an interesting energy. There's a lot of fear, but yet there's a lot of kind of jumping in and doing it anyway. We have the Ten of Swords that's popped out here. Ten of Swords around the pain that has driven all of this to happen. So it started with a pain some time ago, way off in the distant past. There was some working through that was trying to occur before you came along. Then they stopped trying to work on it because the work got too heavy. You came along, re-triggered everything, and caused them to have to start kind of working through it again. We see this in the shifting of their values. We see it in the ending of their pain. You actually made them feel like their pain was going away. But then the triggering happened and everything comes back anew. And you had that same kind of experience. You mirrored one another in that. But now it's a matter of actually connecting the desire to get better and to get healed with the ability to do so. And there's a sense of, look, I don't even know if I can do this, but I am going to try something. And yet this fear that lingers in the background that would have them be their own worst enemy. We've seen this one come out a couple of times, but be careful, because that could be you too. This is the key to your success. So we've got the High Priestess here. The High Priestess is, this one's really about connection to that higher self and to that intuition. The intuition is there. The messages are there. It's a matter of being able to hear them, being able to listen, and then being able to trust what you're hearing. So this is a collective that's come a long way in that. And I love the notes that you send me. It's part of why I do the thank yous. I mean, I didn't get all the way into how much I appreciate this collective when I was doing the intro for this reading, because we just kind of jumped in. But one of the things that I really appreciate, you guys bring tears to my eyes with these notes that you write. It's really amazing. Some of you are using me as a journal. I'm reading everything. I'm not always caught up. It's hard to stay caught up because I read everything and I sit with it. But it's amazing watching you say, here's what's happened. Here's where I am, and I'm recognizing this healing. I'm recognizing this connection to myself, my higher power, my intuition. It's a beautiful thing. Truly, truly beautiful thing. And I can't stress it enough. And I appreciate being here to be able to see it, I mean, I came here to try and help maybe a handful of people if I could find them. And now we've got quite a few of you, that are listening and gaining some benefit. And that is, I didn't realize how healing that would be to me. So thank you. So the Chariot card wanted to come out here in the reverse. I didn't think it was necessarily part of the reading, so I thought I would invite it to come back out if it needed to. Here it is. I love the fact that I can totally trust the universe to put the next card out that is needed, even if it is one that I said, hey, I'm not sure about this. I've released it completely. And it's way better that way. I'm just going to go ahead and say, but with the Chariot here in reverse, and it's, like I said, a message that wanted to make sure that it came back out. There's a tendency goes along with this Ace of Wands to find excuses not to do things. So if you're the kind of person that likes to make plans but doesn't like to actually execute on those plans once the day comes, this is about go ahead, make sure that you do it, because there are going to be huge opportunities that you gain, and nothing that you when you go, but nothing that you gain when you don't go. So make sure that you are, if you're, pick carefully what you're going to do and then have the integrity to follow through. It is way harder than it sounds if you are one of those people, and I know this because I am one of those people. You can imagine that it took me some time to work through that, but that's why also when I said I'm going to start a YouTube channel, I actually started this YouTube channel, because I made myself. I had plenty of self-doubt, plenty of reasons why I thought, well, nobody's going to listen. No, I'm not going to find that handful of people. There's no collective. Like, boy, was I wrong. But that opportunity would only arise if, you just got to jump in and try. See what happens. So we've got this King of Pentacles. This is a really delicate energy for the King of Pentacles, because it is this tendency to know what you're worth and yet be a little concerned that you're not right about it the whole time. That's kind of what I'm getting there. We have the Lovers. This is a choice that doesn't get to be made, not a choice that is not working out, or sometimes we see it and it's a connection that we're not able to make with that divine masculine. But this is and making the assumption that the vast majority of you are the divine feminine, whether you're male or female. It doesn't matter what your gender is. The divine feminine and divine masculine energy is going to be expressed by either person. It's really about what role you take. If there's a runner-chaser dynamic, the divine feminine is very often the chaser and the divine masculine is the runner. However, in this group, in this collective, I've noticed there are just a lot of divine feminines who are not doing very much chasing, a lot more let's just go ahead and stop and solve the problem. But there's some kind of choice that's not being, like, it's not accessed, it's not able to be made. And then you've got the Emperor in reverse here. This is a very frustrated feeling. It's a frustration of not being able to control something, not being able to make something happen fast enough. And if you looked at yesterday's if you saw yesterday's reading, there was quite a bit in there about how do you get comfortable in this situation, and it's sometimes about finding small comfort. It's that lesson that we've been learning about finding small comfort in situations that aren't especially comfortable. And when we look here at this is frustration around not being able to do that very easily. And this is a choice that's still kind of sticking. It's a gear you still can't get into, and it's something needs to be fixed. It's very frustrating in this energy, but it's something that you kind of have to work around it. And yet this feeling of letting go seems to be the most effective way to work around it. And work around it seems like a term that doesn't quite do it justice, but how do you work with this even? How do you co-manifest? There's a sense here that you're not sure if you can, they're not sure if they can. That's just kind of the energy that's going on between you. Let's look to see what other kind of messages want to come up and see what questions come from those so we know what to put into the extended. We've got the Ace of Pentacles in the reverse. So this is not having a tendency to walk through that door. A few days ago, we saw that this was a good time to walk through a door, to open a door or to walk through one. And what I didn't necessarily see was a whole bunch of walking through the door. Now, some of you will have received communications that may have felt like walking through a door, but I think a lot of you didn't. I think a lot of them were kind of, your people were kind of feeling harried. They were feeling like they were being pushed by something within to communicate, and that alone seemed like it created some issues for them. So there's a matter here of, with a door not opening, or really more not walking through one. I guess there's also this something is ending, but what's more important about this ending is the fact that it is being rejuvenated by something else. What this is, an ending that has another beginning associated with it. And the beginning, the new beginning is more important than the ending ever was. That's what I get from this. And yet there's something with the door that they're not walking through. It's them not walking through the door. I'm trying to kind of piece it together because these are almost two separate messages. You know what? They are two separate messages. And I'm going to go ahead and separate them out. And we will pull the clarifiers on them accordingly. So let's talk first about the door they're not willing to walk through. This is a door they're not willing to walk through, a chance they're not willing to take, and yet they're very strongly impacted by this fool energy, this desire. This isn't feeling like a fool, but they're afraid they will. It's about jumping into something new and really letting go, not knowing how it's going to end. And walking through that door is the equivalent of doing so. They are more tempted to snuff out what they're feeling, but yet there's this push behind them. It's like there's a whole wave behind them, and that's literally what's happening on the card. I was thinking like a wave of people that pushes you through a door, but in this card, it's a wave that's kind of pushing this merman through whatever, through the space. And so there's something that does feel like it is pushing them to move, pushing them to move forward. With the Six of Wands, we've got this strong sense of, wow, this is victory, but it's not connecting what they're thinking of as victory. This is a really interesting message because it's a little bit different from, it seems like every time we get in to do these thank you messages, we see some energy that almost seems like it's changing as we're doing the reading. And that's what I feel like is happening again. So they're feeling this push not to walk through the door, yet they're feeling like they're being driven toward it. There's this feeling that they're going to be successful, but not necessarily in the way that it's true, but not the way they think. Let's see, we had a Seven of Wands that dropped. This is their confidence. It is definitely a sense of wavering confidence, but it's an important thing because without that sense of confidence, even the blips where they're feeling like they have confidence, that this Knight of Swords, this approach will never be successful. They are pushing so hard, resisting so hard coming through this door. It feels almost like the resistance around this pushing for something not to change, almost like the rebirth itself may not be, they're not thinking at all about how positive this rebirth is going to be. And yet they're being driven towards it. They're being driven toward it like they're riding a wave. And there's a sense of them knowing they owe you, feeling like they owe you an apology. There's a feeling of them, they don't feel good about something that they've done here. They don't feel something, there's something that they've done that they're not loving. But it isn't the same thing as what you might be thinking. They've done something different that they're not proud of. So along with the Seven of Wands, we also have the Strength card. And the Strength card has given us a little bit of an opportunity to feel like it's a little bit of an opportunity to feel like they're going to find this success. They're going to, it's like this wave that they're riding with this confidence. The Strength card works against fear. There is so much fear here that I can definitely feel like the Strength card, just like the Seven of Wands, feels like it's wavering. But this is someone who wants to go toward happiness. They want to go toward happiness. They're driven toward it. They're driven toward what would make them happy. And sometimes we see the Sun in reverse as a missed opportunity. They don't want to miss an opportunity. It's just like that Ten of Cups lesson that has come out for them numerous times about needing to understand what it is that you do when you are confronted with something that seems like it's too good to be true. They want to be confronted with it, or at least they think they do. They think they want to be confronted with something that's too good to be true and just have it kind of being, laid out in front of them. And that's where this victory is going to come from. But like I was saying, it's really not that way. That's part of what bolsters their confidence, is this fantasy of how things are going to go. And we know they can get lost in their fantasies. But that's not how it's going to actually work out. They're going to get themselves in front of you, and then they're going to realize they're, as they're stammering through, and I'm feeling like the stammering energy. They're trying to feel, or they're as they're stammering through this apology or this thing that they need to say to you, there is a realization, hey, this is it. This is the thing that makes you happy. And then it's difficult to say what they're going to do. So they really want stability. And this third party situation that they have been experiencing, whether it is associated with work or home, and there are some where it'll be both, that's something that's very attracted to them or attractive to them. And they've been looking to work through, how can I have my confidence and have this thing with you and have the comfort of the stability all at the same time? How can I do all of these things? It's, oh, and we are getting this Four of Swords back. Here we go again. I was thinking this may not be right. I'll just go ahead and put it back, and if it's supposed to come back, then it will. It's talking about their healing. So it's it's talking about their healing, but it's talking about them getting to a place where they can heal. And this is deep down a reason why they are afraid to walk through this door, because they don't connect the healing that they would be doing with walking through that door. And it's interesting, they can go either way. Honestly, they're either gonna they're at a crossroads here, and they're either gonna end up going through this door where they're going to heal, but it'll look very different, or they could choose not to go through the door and to go through this cycle again and have to relearn some lessons. That still gets them some healing, but right now we've seen there's a lot of confusion in them about what to do next. A lot of shame has shown up. Here is more of that. It's focusing on shame, focusing on the negative, kind of focusing on the wrong things. Not a very comfortable place to be. They're being brought down again by something that controls them. So they had made some progress, could be around drinking, smoking, overthinking, whatever it is for them. They've made some progress about something that has been controlling them. Could even be a person. But here I'm seeing them backsliding on that progress. This feels like a little bit of a continuation of what we saw yesterday and in yesterday's extended, where it starts to get really deep for them. They have some things that they're going to work. Oh, yes, they're going to work through some things here. And with the Tower card, it looks like it's happening very much in the near term, which makes sense based on the way that things have been feeling, because it's just gotten it's confusing. It's confusing for them. We saw cards of confusion coming out yesterday. It's been confusing for them trying to figure out how to even pick their path forward. And here it's like some options are going to be removed from them. That's kind of what I feel. So of the options they have going forward, some options are going to be removed from them, and that may really contribute to some of this. I'm going to let it go. I'm going to give it up. But it also feels like that's also part of why it's going to waver with that energy of I'm going to hide, and then I'm going to, no, you know what? I'm just going to let it happen. No, I'm going to hide. Now I'm going to let go. It does feel a little bit like it wavers. It's still got that Knight of Wands in the reverse kind of feeling to it. So here we have the Death card. The Death card came out feeling like sometimes the Death card is all about the ending. Sometimes it's all about the rebirth. Sometimes it's about some combination of those two. This one feels very heavily associated with the rebirth, but that's actually what your person is being resistant to. So let's look into this. And I'm curious to know, I think maybe when we get into the extended, we'll look a little bit about your response to this too, because I like to get your advice for you into every reading. So let's make sure that we do that. But these really did feel like they separated out as two questions. So looking into the situation with your person and why they're so resistant to this rebirth, really what I see is more resistance, more I'm not ready. There's a feeling of I'm not ready, like the reverse of the Empress. It's kind of got that feeling to it. So we've got the Ten of Cups. Yeah, I'm not ready. I don't know what I'm going to do when I run across you. You really do seem like you are. Like they're actively opposed to coming back to a rebirth energy with you. And they're making excuses for themselves to make this more real. So here's the thing. They've already invested some energy that is going to make this pretty significant. You see here on this card, the Seven of Pentacles. This one is actually with child, and they're waiting. They've got this cradle with the mobile over it and everything. And that's an investment that you're satisfied with. They look very satisfied. So your person has planted the seed. I'm not saying they got you pregnant. That is not what I'm saying. Maybe they got you pregnant, but that's not what I'm getting at. What I'm saying is they've planted this seed. They have made the investment that enables all of this healing on both sides. They are the ones who manifested you, and you two together have built um, this healing path that you're now both walking down. But they're seriously resisting walking down that path. So the Two of Wands is about travel. It's about, sometimes it's about coming to a crossroads. In this case, it feels like coming to a crossroads and just kind of sitting down. But it's about like, it's coming to a crossroads, but realizing that they haven't figured out what they need to in order to get past that crossroads. They're incredibly intimidated by you. They're incredibly intimidated by you, and they're pretty sure, here with the Queen of Swords and the Nine of Pentacles, that the way they fantasize about the two of you coming back together is not in any way how it would occur. They're pretty sure that you would be far less or more resistant to them in general. Okay, so I want to go back to this Ten of Cups, though, because this is, again, we saw that feeling over here with the Ten of Cups lesson of what happens when you are confronted with something that is ideal, when you're confronted with that thing that seems like it's too good to be true. They're feeling like they are not yet ready to be confronted with it again because they are not yet worthy of what you are. And I mean, that puts it really bluntly, but that's just kind of what's coming out in these cards. But they've already laid the groundwork. They've already, like I said, planted that seed and made that investment. So now they're making excuses to keep from coming back your direction that are things like, oh, hold on, we got an age difference. It's going to be associated with that set of values that we've been seeing, that they are shifting. They've been shifting since before you came along, but again, they were trying to kind of push it out of they wanted to make it a non-issue for a little while. And they were kind of trying to push it under the rug, and then you came along, re-triggered them, and you're making them reevaluate these things, but they're really opposed to reevaluating it. Don't want to think it through too much. They're wanting to have some distance. Okay, let's see here. We've got the Queen of Wands. Queen of Wands in reverse, though. This is about them. It's kind of them quelling their own passion once again. It's cutting themselves off at the knees, making it impossible for them to move forward. Here we've got the Four of Pentacles. Four of Pentacles is like where they're finding something new to hold on to. Over here we have that energy of just let go, just let go. Over here there's that nope, I'm still afraid. I'm still making excuses. I'm still very much wanting to keep this thing from developing into something new, because even though I know it's not over with the World card, they know it's not over. They are not ready to move on with it at this time. So we've got the Knight of Wands. This is kind of like that energy that's almost similar to what's happening with this Knight of Swords, where they're being pushed forward. This is like by that by that wave of water. This is like by a wave of fire, but there's a passionate advancement forward, and it's almost like they can't help but do it, and yet they're pushing against it and trying to quell themselves at every turn. Interesting. Very back and forth. I mean, we were seeing that here, but it's like it's back and forth in the now. It's alternating so quickly that it's not usually this fast. It's usually more of a back and forth. Oh, today they're doing this. Yesterday they were doing something different. This is almost wavering, like in the moment. We've got the Hanged Man that comes out here, which is all about something new that has to be developed, or something new that has to be understood. It's in the process. It's still hanging there. Hasn't quite come up with, or you haven't quite come up with solutions yet. They haven't. This is something that you share, but it's part of what keeps them cloudy and keeps them under the thumb of whatever it is that's controlling them that we see over here. So this could be a drug that just disorients them. Over here, I was feeling a strong disorienting energy, and like I was almost getting disoriented as I was moving through it. And I'm like, well, I'm going to try and explain this. Sometimes when it's disorientation energy, that's hard to explain. But I think it comes from this, it's associated with this devil energy, and it's associated very much with this hanged man energy also, where something hasn't yet come to, hasn't come to light because it's hard to interpret, largely because of whatever it is that's kind of controlling their mind or controlling their perceptions. So, okay. I think from this, one of the things that we need to understand with your person is we aren't getting a sense for their feelings, and we aren't getting a sense for what you should be doing about it. So I feel like we should look into both of those things. But just another thing is like, what is it that's changing in them right now? It feels like that wavering back and forth is being caused somewhat by the change that's happening right now. Also feels like it might be caused somewhat by this energy. So let's see what's happening with them, get a feel for how they're feeling about the situation as well. Because remember, in previous readings, we've seen here's a person who has an increasing capacity for emotion. So let's look at what that is. So that's what we're going to look at when we get into the extended here in just a moment. And because this is the thank you reading, I am just going to do all of my shuffling here in front of you. So for the last couple of months, I think I've been I mean, I keep the extended associated at the end, but I've been hiding the shuffling from you because I'm giving you a tour of my space or a tour of my table or cutting to some other kind of video. Today, though, I'm not going to cut to a different kind of video. I'm going to talk about a phenomenon that shows up in the reading on a regular basis, and that is the concept of reversals. So tarot reversals, when the reverse of a card comes out, how do you read it? And so different readers have different things that they do. But one thing I will say is, so here we have the World card. It means completion of a cycle. If we have it in the reverse, it can mean that a cycle is incomplete. It can also mean that there's still something hanging out there, or that there's an unhappy completion to a cycle that feels like the ends don't quite meet. You know, I mean, there's a lot of different things that can kind of come out with that. But that's the way that I read them. So some people don't read reversals at all. Some people read a reversal as the opposite of what the upright is. Some people read the reversal as a different set of characteristics that is associated with the reversal. And then some people do a combination of those things. So I'm definitely someone who does a combination of those things. And it's just kind of an interesting thing. I got some questions about that. And let me go ahead and get this guy back in here. I want to make sure that we do a nice shuffle. That's still very important. Usually this is not the part that you see. But I just thought it would be nice to take a little bit of time and give you some idea around how different readers read reversals and how I read them. So there we go. And so we're going to go ahead and shuffle the rest of this, and then I will put out the extended, which will be, like I said, just tacked right on here. So no need to go away. Although if you would like, you can fast forward a couple of seconds. All right. But I think we're ready to go ahead and get started. So what we're going to do, we're going to jump into the questions that just came out as we were going through the initial reading. So kind of what is it that's causing that tower? What is it that's causing that devil energy? What is it that is happening? What are they going through right now? That's kind of the question that we're asking. I know that there's something that's happening with a third party. That may be tomorrow's reading, so we'll have to look into that. But we know that there's some strife. We've been watching it come up. Oh, it's causing a lot of back and forth energy in them, but just what is it that they're going through? And then we're going to look at how things feel, how they feel about you, how they feel for you, and maybe get some insight. If it doesn't come out, we'll ask the question directly, but some insight into how you might respond to this and what the best things are that you can do. So let's start out with how they're feeling about, like, what's going on with them right now. What is with this Tower card? This Devil card, it's kind of what is happening there. So we've got the Page of Wands in the reverse. Well, that's like depression. And then the Wheel of Fortune, this is them. This is all about putting that torch in the sand. That's the trying not to advance forward, trying not to move ahead kind of feeling. I feel like there's one more that wants to come out for us here. But there's so much resistance in them right now. This is about their household. Oh, hold up. We need that too. We don't usually take multiples. We usually just take the top one off when I'm looking at my initial deck, and then heaven only knows how far I'm going to go down into the deck when I'm clarifying. For the Page of Wands, though, this is about a depression. This is about a resistance with the Wheel of Fortune in the reverse. We have the Ten of Pentacles, which is about their household, and then the Three of Cups, which is about that third-party energy. So if there was any doubt about what they're going through being associated with some portion of their third-party energy, that doubt is now... I feel like that's subsided for me. So what they're going through is going to be associated with some of their third-party energy, but realize some of these folks have more than one thing going on third-party energy-wise. So it could be they've got something going on at work. Maybe you work together and they're married. Could be you work together and you're both married. But the thing is, there's that feeling of... oh, something's going down. Like something's going down with them. And it feels like it's more in the physical world. So we've had it where things are going down. They have to, they're figuring out what it is that makes them happy. And this is something, their third party situation is something that used to make them happy, which is part of why they're so confused about things right now, because what they're seeing is, boy, it just isn't. And so they had some realization of this in the past, but that's a really heavy realization, and it was an inconvenient truth. One of those inconvenient truths that when we see the Ace of Swords come out, and particularly when it comes out in the reverse, it's like an inconvenient truth that they haven't really had the opportunity to rectify, get right with. You know, here's that Ace of Swords we were just talking about. So this is their opportunity to rectify it and get right with it. This is their opportunity to, I'm drawn to the sword that wants to cut this rope right here, that has the capacity to cut this rope right here. And it feels like it's about time. There's something that needs to happen here, and they recognize they have the ability to do this. This is an opportunity. It's the right time, and it's time to go. But that does not necessarily pull them off of but this used to make me happy. I don't know. It would be so easy to just maintain the stability and allow it to try and make me happy again. And what's happened, though, is they're going through a cycle with that now. They've done that a couple of times, and they're realizing, boy, this is not making me any happier. Then we've got the Knight of Cups, which is them thinking, this is a card of fantasy in this case. Fantasy, and definitely looking back to a situation where they feel like they need to apologize for it. So we've had that feeling of needing to apologize for something. This is a big apology, though. This is not like the Page of Cups where we saw a need for that apology energy, but this is the big we need to have a talk energy. And again, it feels like they're moving toward you and wanting to do that, but it also feels like they've got to figure some things out with this third party, or else it's kind of not going to go the way that they would hope for it to go. It's not going to go as well with you, as they would want for it to go. We have this King of Pentacles. They feel like there's a sense of responsibility for them in this third party situation that they feel like they can't walk away from. It's a child, or it's a family, or it's a family member. There is a sense that they are receiving the downloads now that are saying, hey, you need to do what's right. You're not prepared to go forward with this. Your creativity in your life going forward will be stifled. And by creativity, it's a lot more than just your ability to draw or paint. This is the ability to answer questions, to use resources, to solve problems. It's going to be a problem if they can't get past this. They are doing something that blocks their ability to function, blocks their ability to even understand their situation, and yet despite that, they've got some real understanding that has become available to them, and boy, is it uncomfortable. This is a that all of that energy that we were seeing in that initial reading that just seemed like it was confusing and like it was trying to fight itself out of a fight its way out of a bag, is how they're feeling. Like it's legitimately how they're feeling right now. There's a lot of struggle that goes on in that, a lot of resistance. We see the resistance with the Nine of Wands. Nine of Wands is a card of resistance, but it's oftentimes putting up walls where none are truly needed. So this is someone who's really trying to work through that. So they've learned some things, though. That means that their resistance, they understand that some of it is unfounded, and they're actually getting better at identifying that, but not necessarily at using it. So you guys have asked sometimes, is my person learning lessons and then out there using those lessons with someone else? And the answer is yes and no. So here with their third party, they're taking some of what they've learned and they're trying to employ it, but they're finding it to be confusing. So when they're looking at it and saying, I no longer need to have certain defenses, I've got this, then they crumble, so they're not able to actually put it into play because they want to go back and start making excuses to make things easier. It's very easy to understand when you look at it and you say, well, there's fear. There's a lot of fear there. There's a lot of them not knowing what to do moving forward and them just wanting to say, maybe I can just go back to the status quo and not be so confused. There's a desire to just kind of climb back into bed, but that's not the direction that things are headed right now. Instead, they need to go ahead and do that Fool energy, take that leap, but not quash and quell the things that are most important to them. They need to go ahead. This card came out in the reverse, suggesting that there was this energy between the two of you of being able to just kind of jump in but not have a plan, not necessarily even know if they could be successful. Here is they can be successful. But they almost are missing it in all of the rest of this confusion. There's a lot that goes on here. They're having a hard time with this third party, and there's a lot of anxiety associated with it. A lot of knowing they're not in a happy place. They know they're not in a happy place with the Nine of Cups in the reverse. They know that they have lessons that haven't been learned. So the Page of Pentacles is lessons learned, and that kind of new and cathartic feeling of now I'm going to be able to go and figure this out. Oh, now I want to go try it out and have it actually work. This is not what's driving them to try things out here. That's just them realizing they have seen these lessons before and thought they had learned them. So we've all been burned by lessons we thought we'd learned, but then turns out, we had a lot more to learn. Here, they're recognizing that they aren't feeling that. Here, they're feeling very much flooded as they're trying to use the lessons that they've learned in the situation with you. There's just so much anxiety, so much not being able to get where they want to go. And it's a difficult situation. So you see in the Nine of Swords card here, you see the mermaid that's trying to kind of climb up the rocks. And then there's this guy in the tent, and there's a lot of wanting to get closer, and also there's a sense of screeching anxiety with him. He's covering his ears. He's trying not to hear the call. There's a lot there. And I get that sense. There's a lot of covering their ears and trying not to hear the call. There's a lot of that. But yet with this Nine of Cups, being very aware that they are not in a happy place. They're not in the place that they would most want to be, as Richard Bach would put it, or doing the things that you most want to do, I think is what he said. Been eons since I've read it, Richard Bach, but that's an interesting one. Always an interesting one to pick up, even if you're just turning to a random page in the middle, right? So that's kind of what they're going through right now. It's very unstable. It's very unsure. We get a little bit of their emotions out of that. Let's see what their emotions are towards you right now. Let's look into that. Their emotions toward you, toward your situation. Let's see. We've got the King of Cups. Well, they definitely want to keep a lid on it and feel like they have things it's not that I need stuff to be under control. It's that I need things to look a certain way. We have the Temperance card. They're looking for this balance that they feel like you kind of hold, but they also feel like they're not ready for it right now. That was one of the things that came out in the initial reading. And here I think we have Judgment. Ooh, Judgment and the Nine of Wands. So they don't feel like they need to be as resistant with you as they do. So we have the Nine of Wands upright over here as they're dealing with their third party and trying to work through lessons that they've learned with you. There's a sense of comfort in your energy that they kind of, you might not really hear much about it because they're so silent in a lot of cases, but they feel very comfortable, like at home in your energy. Okay. They feel very at home in your energy, and that's what makes them think that this is where they would be able to establish that balance. But they feel partially at home in your energy because the issues that they have match the issues that you have. Both of you working through these things, and you are both moving through these things, is incredibly positive. So then, the two of you are going to be able to make some of those, what did we say, reconciliations on both sides, and then reconciliations together before union together. But this Judgment card is very much heading in the right direction. It's the feeling of them heading in the right direction, knowing that they're heading in the right direction. But we might as well have the Star card in reverse because of how much of a delay there is around the lessons they're learning with this third party. And one of the things that they're really struggling with here is this King of Cups feeling of wanting things to look a certain way, wanting to come across a certain way so that they're really able to control that narrative and not look like they're losing their minds over there. They would much rather you not be aware of how much they think about this situation because they have a hard time not thinking about it. But it's something that they would really kind of prefer you didn't know. There is a Seven of Pentacles and a Ten of Pentacles here. So, and I'm what I feel like we're missing is almost the Seven of Pentacles in this one. So I feel like they have invested to create that Ten of Pentacles. They know what the household would be like with you. That's essentially what this feeling is. They know it and they feel warmly drawn toward it. They also feel confident, like they'd be able to. There's a first. Pardon me, I just sneezed on the middle of a video. Okay, but I did not sneeze on anything. So with the Seven of Wands, this is them feeling confident that they're able to move toward you. It has a lot to do with that comfort that they feel, that feeling of, in an energetic sense, they don't feel like they need to be very resistant towards you. And we just did a reading recently here about how their energy is right next to you, but they're not necessarily in communication or being close to you. And we can see that their energy feels like it should be with you. You give them strength. And one of those things we've seen in readings past, you are part of where their strength comes from, but you also cause them to do a lot of overthinking. They're really never quite sure how they're supposed to move forward with things. And a lot of that has to do with their involvement with this third party, but there's also an element of they just didn't know it was possible to feel the way that they're feeling. So there's this sense of union with you, a sense of feeling a connection with you, of energy being able to go all kinds of back and forth with you, and it's really amazing. But they don't feel like they can measure up here with the Nine of Pentacles, and with the Six of Pentacles in reverse, they know they haven't. They know they haven't treated you the way that you have deserved. They haven't returned to you the energy that you've brought to them. Yeah, we have the Temperance card here again, and I feel like that's more of an honorable mention, but it's pretty intense guilt that they feel around you. So they've got this feeling of you make them happy. There's a bond here that, unlike anything that they've really experienced before, they can see the future with you. They can see what that would be like. They feel like they're moving in that direction, and yet they still got this, I've got to keep things looking a certain way about it, they're incredibly intimidated by your energy. Okay. Incredibly intimidated by your energy, and definitely afraid that you are advancing well beyond them. So you may have started out advanced a little beyond them, but you are continuing to grow, and your growth is outstripping theirs. That concerns them, given that they were already feeling like they were at a little bit of a disadvantage there. They've got some advice that wants to make its way to them. Okay, they're receiving messages, but they're not really doing a great job of understanding them, of internalizing them. They're a little too resistant, and it's like it's a habit that comes from the way they handle this third party energy. But you, okay, so this is an interesting one. We have the Devil card coming out in the reverse. And I was saying that you give them strength. Some of their strength comes from you. When they're with you, they don't need whatever that is that they're trying to get out from under right now, whether it's someone's approval or a lot of drinking or smoking, or there's something that is currently controlling them. We know they're struggling with it over here. It didn't really come out what it was, but there's something that is really, they're struggling with trying to get out from under its control. And when they're with you, they don't feel the need to even worry about it. So if they're a drinker, they don't feel the need to drink when you're there so much. You know, maybe they still like to have a drink, but it's like not a need. They know the truth about this thing that they're using as an excuse, whether it's an age gap or a racial difference or socioeconomic or political difference. There's something here that they've been using as an excuse. They know that it's not a real excuse. They know that the age gap doesn't matter, or whatever that difference is that they use as that excuse doesn't really matter. But they are incredibly triggered by you, and they need something. They need something because they're drawn to you, but they don't feel like they have enough of, like, they haven't built their status up enough to be with you. They don't feel like they're worth it. There's a strong sense of that. And it's interesting because a lot of you are dealing with people with narcissistic tendencies, and it seems like they feel incredibly confident, and they feel confident about their ability to move toward you because they believe that they're going to have some success with you. But in general, they don't necessarily feel that confident. And this is kind of where even interacting with you has brought that out. So there's been a strong desire to be in control of the situation with you, and also to pair up well. So what I mean by that is, I mentioned that they felt like they were behind you in some ways, that you are pulling them forward and helping your person with their healing. So everything that you do, we know this, everything that you do that is positive helps to, or negative, it impacts them. So when you see success, you're helping both of you see success, and vice versa. When they see success or failure, it reflects onto you as well, and you're able to feel that. You're bringing them up with this. But there's a sense here, what concerns me with the Judgment card here is that they know they're moving in a right direction with you, but I'm not super convinced that you are going to be there waiting for them when they get there. You're doing so much changing and improving that I don't think you forget about them or anything like that. I think it's more a matter of realizing what it is that you truly want is not necessarily the same thing that they want going forward, because maybe you have shifted and changed a little bit, and they have shifted and changed a little bit, and now you are more well suited to be friends. I don't necessarily think that it means the end of things for you. I didn't see a lot of advice for you come out, so let's go ahead and get you some advice. Oh, and right away, we have the Four of Wands. Provide your own stability. There's more along the lines of that inner child work. If you've been watching, I think maybe it was the fall reading, we talked about inner child work. What is happening here? Okay. The Queen of Cups, there is something in you that wants to generate heartbreak, and you're going to be able to get past that pain. But this is really interesting because it is something that is an old pain. When you're generating this stability for yourself, it's going to actually be a huge thing because you are walking away from something that has kept you relatively codependent. That's what I'm seeing with this Queen of Cups in the reverse here. That's something that has kept you codependent, but you now have an opportunity to recognize it for what it is and to choose not to go that direction. Here you have the Three of Swords. It's the feeling, the memory of, not feeling of, memory of heartbreak that's going to kind of bring you to where you need to be to start solving this issue. And the Ten of Swords in the reverse is the pain falling away, but leaving the learning. And you'll practically be able to see this happen. So you have a very, there's a very positive energy that you're moving toward, but it does involve using that heartbreak that you've felt. It doesn't mean you have to feel it again. Here we go with the Three of Swords. Yes, using that heartbreak, recognizing what it is, and let's make a plan to make things better based on this, because the pain is falling away, but leaving the learning, like I was saying here. So when you see yourself get triggered to a codependent behavior, you have the ability to say, nope, let's go ahead and use that pain. And you're not going to be feeling the pain quite the same way, but you're going to be able to use it. So with the Ten of Wands, this is that lesson that keeps coming up, where you're going to want to be able to set things down that you want to let go of responsibility for, because you don't have control over them. But the easiest way to do this is one decision at a time. So as the decisions come to you, you have this ability to say, yes, I'll keep this one. No, I won't. And I'm going to set down those items in my pack that are associated with it, and thereby lightening your load a little bit. That's part of what you're recommended to do to manage some of this energy as it's happening, because your person's got a lot going on. They are being elevated by you, but you are, you don't want to be dragged back down. You've got a good thing going. You're moving towards your own stability, and it has to do with work that you are doing. So that is really significant. With the Knight of Pentacles, it's slow. The work you're doing is kind of a slow process, but it's a very important one. And you're encouraged to keep doing it, keep going on that road. You've got the Four of Swords here in the reverse, which suggests that it's not a particularly restful path, and also one that it's harder to heal because of that lack of a restful path. So just something to keep in mind. Things don't want to change. Yeah, things don't want to change. We have the Wheel of Fortune in reverse. This is a feeling of not wanting to make a change that you're kind of, the waves are pushing you to make. You need to not so much think it through, but feel it through and allow it to happen. You have something that may be unfolding in your life that is not entirely dissimilar to this, only maybe not as dramatic. So look for something in your life that is kind of a third party that you are breaking with. It doesn't have to be a friend, or you don't have to be breaking, like quitting your job or no longer going to be with your spouse or whatever your particular situation is. But it's something that you're going to be making an adjustment here, and you may be a little resistant to it. Feels like it's associated with that codependent piece, but you are the source of this balance, just like your person thinks that you are. Now, of course, they have to go through their own pieces, otherwise they won't be able to make use of it. But you are an incredible source of that balance for them. So that's something also to keep in mind. It's foundation. I want to put it down toward the bottom, because it feels like that's your foundation, and this is your ability to find that stability. You've had that coming out here in 3 times. You have 2 Four of Wands and a Temperance. This is about finding stability. It also does, it does have something to do with calling in a soulmate. We know that you have, from previous readings, somebody coming. This is the sort of energy where you're able to actually bring them in. And this is it's an integrity. It's a beautiful energy when it is not trying to control the surroundings. So you are advised to not try and control the narrative like your person is doing up here, and just allow passion to reign and ring through. That's kind of what wants to come out in your advice. But let's get you an oracle card. I have I decided to go ahead and use Mermaid's oracle card as well. It's the messages from the Mermaids deck. It's a fun one. I don't use it all that often, but I thought since I was doing mermaids in the tarot decks that I might pull this one out as well. I think I've done that before. Let's see what comes out for you as an oracle card. Just something that you can use as guidance. Something additional you can use as guidance. I think there's a lot of good guidance here where it's telling you to find your stability, create your stability. But let's see maybe a little bit more about how that might be done. Okay, let's see here. We have turn away. Okay. came out in the reverse. And whereas oracle cards I typically don't read in the upright, or I don't usually read reversals with regard to oracle cards unless the deck specifically warrants it or the situation warrants it. In this one, there is some element of not turning away from something that needs you, but turning away from something that no longer benefits you. So there is some element of that in there where you're kind of having to use your discretion. So like with this 10 of Wands, where you've got things where you approach a crossroads, you approach a decision, and you say, okay, is this something that I can control? Yes, it's something that I control. I'm going to take the things out of my pack. I'm going to utilize these tools. I'm going to do what influence I need to do, and then I'm going to move forward. You get to the next thing and you determine it's not something you can control. You pull the tools out of your pack that are relevant to it, you set those down, and you walk away. So there are going to be some things that you cut off, you walk away, you turn away from, but it's not going to be those things that are most important, those things that are most important to you, or things that where you're most needed. There's an element of this that is absolutely also in the reverse, which is how it came out, but also just kind of wanted to call that out as a separate message. So this has been my thank you reading for the month of September, and I really just appreciate you guys. I appreciate you being here. I appreciate you being with me and listening. I cannot believe how many of you there have been, how many you have become. And I still love reading what your experiences are and what your questions are. So do please keep bringing those. You can send them to me over social media or email, whatever works for you. I read all of it, and I look forward to seeing you again in tomorrow's reading.